If you're on a fix and flip business doing 30 deals per year or more and you feel like you have no time, you're getting burned out, you can't break through the next level, this episode explains exactly how Chad Klamen has overcome those obstacles with hiring, delegating, and overcoming his organization struggles with the fix and flip project management. Listen to this as well if you're brand new and you want to hear how he found the most successful real estate developer in his town and found a true way to provide value to get his foot in the door and to even get started. Give us a 30-second example of what your business does.
We're a traditional wholesaler, and when I say wholesaler, I don't mean like we buy, put stuff under contract, and then sell the contract. Like we buy property at wholesale prices. So my goal is to buy property for less than what it's worth, and then my exit strategy currently, because I'm wearing most of the hats, is like dictated by the property. So sometimes it's wholesale, sometimes it's fix and flip. Sometimes it's wholesale. Sometimes it's like, putting lipstick on a pig and then selling it to the end user. And then sometimes it's rental. And then when it's a rental property, then it gets put into, we fix it, make it, for the most part, really nice. Our rentals are, B to A minus properties. And so everything that we have, like, by adding granite versus formica, by putting a super nice product, like, I get that back in rent, and so we make them really nice, and then put it in our rental portfolio, and then we own and manage a rental property company to where like we have people that then service and lease and do all that stuff.
Got it. Man, I love the A and B class rentals because it's more money per conversation that you have to have, right? If you have a $500 a month rent property or a $1,500 a month rent property, it's the same amount of leases, the same amount of conversations. I like to get paid more for each one of those conversations that I'm having.
Yeah, like what I have found is that the maybe going into it, like the cash on cash return might not be as good, and maybe like the in-place cap rate or whatever that you think you're going to get when you pencil is going to be as good.
But they appreciate more as well, right? On the A and B level.
Yeah. Your internal rate of return is probably going to be better, but not only that, like, when a water heater goes out, it doesn't wipe out the entire month.
Yeah.
So like when a tenant leaves, it's going to cost me the same amount of money to turn that unit as it would if it's a $2,500 tenant, or if it's a $1,500 or if it's a $700 for the most part. Right. It's going to cost me a
cleaning fee, right?
Cleaning fee, painting. It doesn't matter. Like I got to do about this. I still have to pay a lease up fee. So maybe it's not exactly the same, but like, every dollar I get more by putting in nicer product, like all that is direct profit into my pocket.
The fridge in both of those houses costs the same.
It costs the same.
So does the shingles are the same type of shingles, and it's the same type of air conditioner and stuff, right? So yeah, a lot of stuff is just a smaller percentage as an expense in a nicer property.
Yeah. So I find it more challenging to make money on the lower end buildings, and like when I say I found it more challenging, I've never really wanted to be in that space, so I don't have a ton of experience on like how to operate that the most efficiently. But like it's just, I would rather deal with the young professional or like the family with one kid that wants to be in a good school district versus the tenant that has to be there.
Tell us about your first deal. Your dad was a little bit involved, right?
My first deal. So if you roll back the clock back to when I was working for a developer, like this is kind of an interesting story, and basically, my dad, when I got fired from my job, I was working for Aldi, it didn't work out, and I did a bunch of traveled all around the world, and I came back to St. Louis, and I was like, Dad, like hire me, I'm ready, I'm gonna be your guy, and he's like, well, you know nothing about real estate. And you know nothing about St. Louis, and you just got fired and lived like a hippie. So
you got fired?
Yeah.
From what?
Well, when I was working for Aldi, I got fired from my corporate job.
How'd you get fired?
It was kind of like a laundry list of stuff. But what happened was when I first was hired there, like I thought my boss was like the coolest guy in the world, and he was great. Then he got promoted, and someone was brought in, and like her and I just ultimately didn't really get along, is what I would attribute to getting fired for. Like
that's the number one reason why people like or don't like their job is their boss.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Is the boss that hired me told me that. I remember specifically him telling me that, because what we did at Aldi is like we oversaw a territory of stores. Like I graduated college, went through training, and then like I was 22 and I had like a district. I was a district manager, so I had a territory of stores I oversaw. Like I thought it was the coolest job ever.
Yeah.
You know, I had like 60 employees at 22. I thought I was the man. You know. You got like a company Toyota, you know, so it was,
that's a nice perk, a car.
Yeah, I got a car, I got a car and a credit card, and Aldi is a growing company, and like, I liked my coworkers and stuff, so it was good. My boss got promoted, and then they basically like the person that came in, her and I didn't really jive, and like she was just sort of like looking for reasons. Long story.
Say no more.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, whatever. It didn't work out. So then I was like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. So then I was like, I guess I'll travel. Like that seems like a logical decision, you know. Maybe I'll find myself or something. So did that, and then I moved, and then I came back to St. Louis. Thought I was gonna go work for my dad. He said, I'm not gonna hire you. You don't have any experience. You know, you got fired. And I was like, oh shoot, well, what am I gonna do now? I was like, well, you know, like if I'm gonna get into real estate, I might as well try to like work for the richest guy in St. Louis in real estate. Seems like that'd be a good mentor, you know?
Who's that?
Well, so I just started cold calling like successful people. So like I called Michael Steinberg, which if you're from St. Louis, you probably know that name.
Actually don't. Well, who's that?
He developed the Chesterfield Valley. So he was
nice.
partners with Stan Kroenke for years. THF was their company. They stood for To Have Fun, and they split and did different things. But he's like redeveloping the Chesterfield Mall right now and making it like downtown Chesterfield. Like owns his own plane. I think he's a
big real estate developer.
Big real estate developer in St. Louis. I met him at his office, which is another good story. I called his office. I was like, oh, I'll just call him. You know, maybe he'll meet with me. And you call his office. It says press 1 to talk to Michael Steinberg. Press 2 to talk to anybody else. Well, 1. That's an obvious answer, right? And he answers, hello, this is Michael. Oh, I didn't expect him to answer. So, oh my God, I didn't expect you to answer. My name's Chad. I want to get in the real estate business. You know, can I come by and introduce myself sometime? And he's like, I don't know. Why don't you call me back next week? So I call him back next week, press 1 again, talk to Michael Steinberg. Oh, you called me back. He's like, sure, come on in.
Most people wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
Nice.
he was testing me, I guess. So I go in, and he's like, yeah, I'm too old to train you. I'm going to send you over to my buddy. You know, he'll help you out. So he sends me over to a guy named Gary Gruey.
I'm too old to train you.
He sent me over to a guy named Gary Gruey, who developed the Gravois Bluffs, which I'm sure you're familiar with the Gravois Bluffs if you're a South County guy. You probably recognize the name G.J. Gruey. I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't.
Man, I don't know that either. I wasn't in real estate when I lived in St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm fascinated. Go on.
Yeah. So I go over there. The guy is wearing a 3-piece suit, like a pink 3-piece suit. You know, he's like cut out of a totally different era, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, you're sent here from Michael, you're hired.
Wow.
Like,
Michael's,
okay.
he gave you a lot of
He's
weight.
like, okay, great. He goes, but in order for me to train you, what I need you to do is you need to meet 50 business owners in St. Louis and introduce yourself and find out what their plans are for their company.
Oh, dude, that's super valuable.
Right?
What a great task.
Because he owned shopping centers, so I had to go and meet other business owners that owned, not shopping centers, but like owned the stores in the shopping center. So I had to go meet like the guy that owns.
Did he pair you up or did he leave that to you?
No, he said go figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, so now I really fumbled through it, but basically he wanted to see how hard I was going to try. You know, I was going into like, I didn't know what I was doing. And it's I'm describing it easier than he did. He's like, go tell me 50 people that want to grow their business and talk to them now. Otherwise, don't come back. Basically is what he said. I was like, I don't know what that means. So I was like going into like McAllister's and be like, what are your business plans? I was talking to like the store manager,
Oh, amazing.
And the store manager doesn't know. They don't know anything. So, but anyway, he wanted me, the goal was to find companies that were on the move, companies that wanted to open up another location, come back in with the sheet and tell him what their plans are and prove that I actually
bring him leads.
Yeah, so
that's great.
So I started there, and there was like, it was like the Harvard School of Real Estate. Nothing like CG. It was like the Harvard School of Real Estate if we were in 1975. I had to be there by 7 o'clock in a suit and a tie. I had to read the Wall Street Journal and the Post-Dispatch every morning before I started my day. And then my goal was to go find people that wanted to open up another location. And I was like basically a leasing agent for a small shop space in St. Louis, which is a great learning experience. Like I owe a ton of what I know about real estate to Gary, but like it's not a good way to make a living. You know, the cash conversion and what we'd say today, like the cycle from when you meet somebody to when they actually expand,
could be really long.
It
right?
could be, well, it could be forever, but then like even once they find the place, like to get the lease signed, then they finally get to do the build out. They finally pay for your person. It might be 6 months on, you know, a 2,000 square foot small shop space in St. Louis. You might make $8,000, and it could take you 6 months, not 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, 6 months, yeah. So I kind of realized like, okay, I'm maybe interested in commercial real estate, and like this is not the right spot. And so I read the book Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller, and I was like, oh, I guess you can make money in residential real estate. And my dad's in residential, and he's an investor, but my dad's residential. Maybe I'll go do that. And then like I could bring like another aspect to the business was what I was thinking. So I went to Keller Williams for like 6 months to a year, and like I realized like what they were telling me was the same thing that Gary was telling me, which is like the business is based on lead generation, lead follow-up, and going on appointments. Gary was saying like the business is based on...
Those first few years are tough, right?
Tough, yeah, tough. So yeah, I was like cold calling on FSBOs and expired. I got really good at lead generation on the phone, doing it myself. And then I came to work for my dad, and I was like, okay. Like,
he finally hired you.
Yeah, then he's like, okay, you put in the work. So 2.5 years later, I started with my dad.
You got to respect that he made you earn it, though.
It was invaluable.
Maybe you don't, but that's
no,
I
like,
appreciate that.
At the time, I sort of understood where he was coming from.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, it was a really strong strategic decision by him. But not only
it's probably good for you too.
Yeah, for me, for him, and I don't mean for him. I meant like for our relationship. For me, you know, 'cause when I say for him, he's really just thinking about me. Like he had already made it at that point. He didn't need me to come work for him, you know. So he's like, okay, well, where's Chad going to learn the most? You know, on his own, cutting his own teeth. So,
dude, that's a great story.
Yeah, it is a good story.
So now you're with okay. At this point in the story, you're with your dad,
So then
and you're doing residential real estate. So
2016, I'm with my dad, and I'm doing both. So I am
both?
I'm doing traditional real estate, like for friends and family, someone that wants to buy or sell a house.
Yep.
And I'm spending, now that I'm with my dad, and like I can, because I didn't know about hard money. I also like, it would make my stomach turn too much. Like I've never borrowed money, hard money. Like I'm just, we've always...
The short time frame is unsettling.
You know, the high interest rate.
Yeah.
There's something about psychologically, like when I take those tests, like where am I on the risk spectrum? You know, I'm sort of like, let's say a 10 is the highest. I'm like a 7. You know, I'm sure that there's our buddies that are working corporate jobs that are a 4, and our CPA friends are a 2.
Yeah.
But I'm not on the very edge.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I just borrowing the entire. And so anyway, so I go work for my dad, and the deal we come up with is like any lead that I bring in, we'll buy together. You know, he's going to fund it, and then, you know, we split the profits or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was basically doing that on the side of also being a traditional real estate agent. So for the first like 3 or 4 years, like I lived off my commissions as a traditional agent, and then we were buying property and we were selling it, but then we were just putting it back into
the next property or
the
something.
next property, or we were like he wasn't just like giving us the money. Like we might borrow off his line, and then we'd make 20 grand on some deal or whatever. It would go into our LLC, and then it would go into our LLC, and then we would buy a rental, and we would drain it a little bit, then we would, or whatever. It's kind of like how we were operating at the time.
Got it.
Then I slowly realized that like I can make more money on the investment side than the traditional retail side. And I spent a lot less time like trying to get business over there, focus my time on the investment side. And so now we're at a point where what I was saying is I kind of have leveled off, is that the number of deals that I've done has really leveled off. You know, we bought 49 houses in 2019, 52 houses in 2020, 53 and 57, and so like...
Nice, that's great.
Yeah, it's good. It's great. But like, if I realize that like there's a knowledge gap between what I know and what the guys that are doing more or whatever know. And so like I need to put myself in a room where I could, continue to grow.
So you're doing 53 flips? Or you do multiple exit strategies,
Yeah,
right?
multiple exit
53
strategies.
off-market deals.
Yeah, so we own and manage 160 rental units. And so we bought, call it 55 properties last year. Some ended up in the rental portfolio, some were flips, some were wholesale.
How do you decide if you're going to keep something or wholesale it or whatnot?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, sometimes it just has to do with like the contractors that I trust, where they at on projects. Sometimes it has to do with
If your trusted contractors are all busy, you might pass on a deal, like just wholesale it.
I might wholesale.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and and sometimes it has to do with sometimes you go through a phase where it's like you've got 10 projects going on, and it's like, I just want to put some money in my pocket. I'd rather take a little bit less, or whatever, and just move on to the next one. So sometimes that factors in. So if it's a house that I really like, generally we keep them. Generally we keep them.
Would you say this is true or false in your experience? Now, how many years have you been doing this, the wholesaling side?
The wholesale, 2016 is when I started, so 8 years.
Nice. Yeah. Would you say that wholesaling is affected by interest rates?
I don't know. I think the real estate market in general.
Did it slow down or speed up when they raised them?
Yeah, if you look at the velocity and the turnover on just houses in general, when interest rates went up, in 2022, I think there were 6 million houses that were sold. And then last year, I think across the country, there was only around 3.5 to 4 million properties that were sold. And so if there's less movement, I think there's just less movement in general.
Did you guys do less deals or the same amount of deals?
No, we did the same amount of deals.
Oh, okay.
So there's and maybe that has to do with
there's still bad things that happen, right? There's still people with rundown houses that have an emergency no matter what the interest rates are.
No doubt. I think the harder part for us, because we close on probably 80% of our stuff, at least at this point we do, is that it's really easy to make decisions in a rising market. In a flattening or declining market, you've got to be more confident on your back end price. There were times in 2021.
If it's declining, you could buy it and it could go down by the time you
by the time you close and you rehab it. All of a sudden now you're not making any money. Where in 2021 you buy it, you close, you rehab it, you sell it. That whole time the value goes going up. Yeah,
without you even doing anything.
Without me even doing anything. And so it was a really forgiving market. Where now it's not the case. Being here in Tampa, I'm looking at stuff on Zillow just because I'm always curious, and it's like you're looking, $50,000 price cut. They started at 1.6 and now they're asking 1.3, and so we're not seeing quite that much movement in St. Louis, but the prices since when it peaked, it's definitely come down, 5, 7, 10%. And so, it's something that you have to factor in that, okay, maybe I can't, hold my nose and make a decision on this one. I got to be more careful.
You've been very successful. Congratulations, by the way, on doing 57 flips, especially. A lot of flips are so difficult. I know they're not all flips, but that's just, I got a lot of respect for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
No, I forgot what I was even going to go with that. But just for perspective, I do a deal a month, or so that's a fraction of what you do. But I understand things get complicated.
Yeah,
but you got a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, they do. But it's what I've focused on, right? I'm sure if I had a podcast and a software you're focusing on the software and your software company's growing. So
And I wanted to ask you. You want to get bigger. You want to get more than 57. What's driving that desire?
Okay, so let me back up a little bit. I want to give my brothers a shout out too, because they are both now working with us as well.
Yep.
They're not, and so the way we structured it is because we're all sort of in different spaces. My younger brother worked for Marcus and Millichap when he decided he was going to get into it. Once my dad made the rule that we have to go work somewhere else. Now anybody that wants to get in the business has to go work somewhere else.
Nice, yeah, it's a good rule.
So then my younger brother went and worked for a commercial brokerage where he was selling shopping centers throughout the Midwest. And then when he left there, that's what he decided to do underneath our Klamen Real Estate name. So now we have Klamen Group, which is our residential business. And then we have Klamen Commercial, where he brokerages shopping centers. So we're sort of working parallel to each other underneath kind of a name, which there's pros and cons to it. The pros is like there's just less likely that we'll probably have disagreements about like
because you're kind of in your own lane, right?
We have our own profit center. The negative side is like there's clearly silos, where like it's hard to, we've got a shared expenses such as like our, we share our bookkeeper, like who's gonna work with them, who's gonna hire them, blah, blah, blah. And then my older brother was living in LA as an actor, moved back to St. Louis during COVID, went and worked for a residential real estate company, and then now he kind of runs all of our traditional residential real estate business and then does like some flipping. So his main focus is on the residential side and then does some flipping as well. Kind of like how I was when I sort of started. But we've got our Klamen real estate.
Is it important for you to be the highest earning brother?
No.
Y'all aren't competitive like that, just from a competition standpoint?
It is. Like we are luckily not very competitive. Like I'm very competitive, but I think within each other, we've done a pretty good job historically, just in the past over life, not being competitive with each other, but being excited for each other. And so I constantly want to remind myself that we are on the same team and that if he does better, that like it's good for everybody and it rises the tides. And so it's like I don't even want to consider that as an option of like looking at my brother as a competition because it's not the right way to look at it. I want him to be successful, just like I'm sure that him and both of them, and just like I'm sure that they want me to be successful.
What was the big goal with wanting to get past the 57?
Oh, okay. Going back on that. So what I realized the past 3 years, like I haven't enjoyed the business as much as I did. And I think part of it is because now we've got this property management stuff. Now we've got we're buying more houses. Now we're taking on larger renovations. We're doing historical tax credits. And we've got all these things going on. And I'm doing a lot of it. And I've been drained too thin where it's like everything's a fire drill because I'm taking on every single role. So I more than want to get past 57 is I want my time back. So I'm hiring an executive assistant. I'm hiring an acquisitions guy. I'm going to be hiring a GC at some point. And so getting my time back will allow me to put other people in chances to be successful and to where I'm not doing 1,000 different roles. To be honest, like scaling to 200 units, 300 units, I don't know if I necessarily care about that. Right now, what I want is to really do like 100 because I think like 100 in my mind sounds manageable where I also will have people that can be in roles and be successful and make money where I'm not doing every single thing.
You want a business that serves you rather than you having to serve the business all the time.
No doubt. And I want a business that like I can serve, that like I can add value to other people on the team. But right now I have a high paying job. The rental properties is a business, but the other stuff, it's just a high paying job and it's way too much that I'm just, it's like it's just taking me down, and I need to figure out a way to put. And that was the main reason I wanted to come here. Is like I got to figure out a way to put process in place.
Got it. Well, you're in the right place,
and find the right people, and everything else.
So that first meeting, you probably like took a lot in. What was there like a single big learning thing that you had, or I know you said you kind of had like
the last CG.
Yeah, I mean that was your first meeting. It's probably overwhelming.
Yeah, I think what the biggest thing that I learned is like you can hire. There's things called virtual assistants that are competent, successful people in another country that you can hire for a fraction of the price. Mm-hmm. And like you can put them in your property management business to do a lot of these roles. We had a virtual assistant that did like data entry for us. And I just thought that
was the extent of their skill set,
That was the extent of like what you could get someone to do from a foreign country that why wouldn't they do a high paying job in their own country? Well, because the dollar is so strong, that we can pay them a really good wage,
and it's life changing.
And it's a really job that they really care about, and they're coming in with a better attitude and better skills than anybody could hire local. Mm-hmm. When I look at it holistically,
yeah, for sure, I agree, and that's possible. So I'm glad that was a takeaway.
So that because we were going to bring on somebody for our maintenance side on the property management business. And if I were to hire somebody local for the talent I got, I would be paying $70,000. And I don't know if they'd be out there, and I wouldn't be confident that they would stay with me. Mm-hmm. We ended up hiring somebody for $11 an hour with a really strong skill set, really organized. And, she's only been with us a short period of time, but even the people I was interviewing, I was deciding between, okay, does this person, do they have all the capabilities and all the personal qualities that I'm looking for? Where in St. Louis, if I was interviewing, I basically can't look for
It's a more
both.
limited pool.
It's a more limited pool, and I can't look for both at the same time, And if I did get both at the same time, I'd be paying, like I said, 3 to 4 times as much.
Yeah. Dude, I was smiling because I just realized who's the big real estate developer who did Chesterfield Valley?
Michael Steinberg.
Michael Sandberg. You gave me the Michael Sandberg when I reached out to invite you to this podcast. You said, hey, text me that week. We'll figure it out.
Oh, that's funny.
So I texted you today, and then we figured it out.
Oh, that's funny.
Did you do that on purpose, or did you know you were like implementing that?
I didn't think about it until now, but I did give you the Michael Steinberg.
You did.
I've done that.
That's good.
I've done that. I did learn from that. I have done that in the past. I didn't consciously do that with you, I don't think. But
it doesn't matter if you did on purpose.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
great.
thought that was great.
Right.
It's funny.
Yeah, let's find out if this guy really wants to meet me or not.
So I do, and I did.
Yeah.
So what is the big takeaway this time you think that you're looking for?
I want to hire an executive assistant, so I'm interviewing for that. Ooh. And so
that's going to be local?
No, it's going to be a VA too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And like the job description I put together is super robust. It's like answering incoming calls, managing my email, data entry, CRM, updating documents, reviewing my credit card statement. Like it's pretty robust, but
right, lots of different administrative tasks that you're doing, but you could pay somebody a lot less to get those done.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of want to know what people do for training for them. I want to meet with Jen, with the Kick assistant, talk to her about what they can do for training for me. So that's definitely something that I want to have. And I have a list. There's 2 other things. I came here with 3 things I wanted to take away.
Got it. Well, on the assistant, I could actually speak a few of my examples. I've had 3 executive assistants, and the latest one has been with me for 4 years. So I've got a great one now. And the first one, I'll call her Mary. And I hired her, and her first task was to plan a company fun event. And so she planned out like a theme. It was going to be 80s themed. It was going to be at a roller skating rink. And she got everyone all excited, great communication. And then the day of, we get in the cars. It's 3 p.m. on a Friday. And somebody pulls open the GPS, and they're like, hey, it says it's closed. And I was like, Mary, did you call and see if they were open, or did you like plan a private event? And then it was just like silent. And then the following week, obviously it was closed. We didn't get to do our fun event.
So did she do nothing, or I'm confused? What did she do?
Well, we all just went home because
No, I know you didn't get to go, but what was she doing?
She got so excited about planning the event, right? She handled the communication. She picked out the theme. Like she got everyone all excited, but then she forgot to do the most basic thing, which was like
schedule
make sure the venue's open. Correct. So
I always wonder, it blows my mind how some of these people make it through life.
Well, maybe they just shouldn't be an executive assistant, because a lot of creative talents aren't as like detail oriented, and they've got personality tests that suss this out.
Yeah.
But anyway, I gave her like a little bit of a pass, but then the next week she had to run home to get a laptop that I forgot, and when I came home that day, my front door was left swung wide open. So Mary had to go right away. Yeah. But so now with the assistant that I do have, I said, hey, you've got past assistant experience before. That's great. Why don't we do a test project so that we can, because interviews are fake, but the best way to learn how you get along with somebody is actually doing work. So I said, I'm going to pay you $300 to plan a company fun event. Go ahead. So we did that, and it was great, right? And then I said, hey, that went really well. Maybe there was like a couple pieces of feedback that I had for her.
Sure.
But then I was like, now let's do something else. And I'll pay you to do whatever it was. So just the test project is always a huge way that I like to handle interviews, because interviews are fake, and this allows me to hire maybe like 3 people to do the same test project. And that gives me a benchmark of like, what extra explanation did I have to give this person that I didn't have to give this person? And that really helps me figure out who the actual best hire is. And sure, I paid 3 people 3 payments to do the same 3 things. I didn't need it done 3 times, but it's worth paying that money because it gives you the extra knowledge about who's actually the best hire.
What I've learned is that making bad hires is so painful.
For the team as well, because it's like they get to learn who this person is, they get all excited, and then now they're gone.
Right.
And it's like, fuck.
Right.
You wasted a lot of time. And if there was another good candidate in the process, now they're gone to another opportunity.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to start that process over again.
I have a cousin that lives in New York, and he runs a pretty successful small business there. I think that's like 120 employees, like $15 million revenue top line. And he told me that when he hires somebody, he interviews 20 people.
Okay.
And like when I was hiring before I had that conversation with him, I'd interview like 5 people. I like this person the best. Let's get them rolling. And so we've totally changed our process on hiring too. Like we interview 20 people now. And to your thing, we do the same thing. We do a test week, where they actually work for us for a week.
Yeah.
And then, we don't hire them. We pay them, but we don't hire them until the end of the week.
Well, I do like that you look at more people, but I feel like 20 hours of my time and your time is also really, really valuable. So one thing that I would do is if it's a job where there's like, I'm not talking like senior management, right? But if it's like a customer support representative or executive assistant, maybe before I even look at their resumes, I send everyone a message that says, thank you for applying. Please send me a 2-minute video saying why you wanted to apply for my company. And then also teach me something fun in 30 seconds that you're passionate about. And that weeds out like 90% of them. And then I can look at the 10%, I could see a lot of things. The quality is called ready to play. So I didn't tell them how to upload the video. Some people will just figure out a way to send me the video, and that is good. A lot of people will stress out before they ever get started. They're like, when is the video due? How should I send it to you? Is it okay if it's like a little bit longer? And it's like, okay, I don't really want a person who has to ask all those questions. I'd rather them just get it done. And then the video, I can like kind of get, when you're in an interview, it's like, if it's not going well, it's kind of awkward to like shut it down after 2 minutes, right? So you waste 30 minutes kind of being nice, right? So the video in 2 minutes lets you really understand a lot about a person in 2 minutes. So that would be my suggestion.
That's a great idea.
And it doesn't work so well if it's like a hard position to hire for, because it really just works when there's a large supply, right? So anyway, that for what it's worth, I thought that might be helpful.
Anyways, you said you were impressed with me. I'm impressed with what you've put together.
Thanks.
At DealMachine. That's super exciting. What's exciting too about a business like that is there's like no sky limit, like theoretically, like there's always more investors that you could always go after, and you can sell it all across the country, which is super neat, which is so different than, my business, where right now, at least, we're hyper local.
I'll tell you though, that it always looks greener on the other side. Don't fall for it.
Doesn't matter what business you're in, there's always
it always looks greener on the other side, for sure.
Have you seen, I forget how to pronounce his last name, Alex Hormozi?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so he talks about the cycle of doom for a business. And so you start off and it's uninformed optimism, like, oh, that sounds great, I could sell it anywhere. I'm uninformed, like this business is amazing. And then you get over the edge, like, oh, this is actually really hard. Now I'm in informed pessimism. And then after informed pessimism, you go to the bottom, where that's when you crash and burn at the cycle of despair. And that's when most people that aren't successful, that's when they start a new business again. Then they go over here and they're back to uninformed optimism.
Starts the whole process again.
Yep. And you never make it to, achievement. And so, to your point, it's exactly right. There's always another business out there that sounds sexier.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, appreciate it.
Thanks, dude. This is super fun.
Yeah, this is great.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.